Hello, friends. Welcome back to How to Talk to Weirdos, where we discuss communication with people who are different than you. And since we're all unique, that's pretty much everyone. When someone has a different style of communication, they can seem like a weirdo. And if they seem that way to you, you probably seem that way to them. As I like to say, everyone's kind of a weirdo. We're going to talk about some of the assumptions that we make and other pitfalls of communication so that we can all improve. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. Wow, this is episode 24. It's the last one of 2023. What a whirlwind this has been. I've had some really great guests, and I've done some great interviews, and I've learned a lot, both from the podcasts and about podcasting. And doing the actual podcast recording was always okay. I like talking to people. I like sharing my thoughts. I'm pretty comfortable with that. But the technical things behind it are where I've had to learn quite a bit. I think the sound quality started out okay. I've got decent equipment. There were some glitches and some tweaks I had to make along the way to make the sound quality better. And as you may be able to tell, I do the bare minimum of audio editing. But even that was a learning experience. I have learned a lot of tricks and tips, and it has sped things up and gotten a little bit easier and less stressful for me. So that's been good. But I'll tell you, the biggest challenge for me was getting video clips and being able to use them on social media sites. I admit, I started Instagram having no idea how to use it. And I really embraced my favorite saying of, if it's worth doing poorly. When I started, I was definitely doing it poorly, and I'm still no expert, but I'm slowly discovering more tools, and it's gotten at least a little bit better. So I would encourage you, check out my Instagram page. It's Jeremy Doran Speaks, and if you look at my oldest entries and my more recent ones, you can see some progression, but please let me know what I can be doing better. It's still not my strength, but I continue to learn, and I hope to learn more. I had some pretty big social media type wins over the last month. I learned that on Instagram, I can actually collaborate with someone. Instead of just tagging them in a post, if I collaborate with them, then it goes to both of our followers. I thought tagging was a pretty big accomplishment for me, and then I learned this, so it was great, and I really appreciate it. The problem that I had was it, as far as I can tell, is not something I can do from the computer. It's only when I am doing it from my phone on Instagram. And so that meant that I need to learn how to sync my Google Drive on my phone and my computer. So now I upload files to my computer, sync to my phone, and then post on Instagram. Ultimately, it's relatively simple to do, but it took some figuring out, and I have to thank Anna Xavier for giving me a push to make sure that I got that done. So thank you. Another good one is getting the RSS feed of my podcast onto my webpage. My webpage is jeremydoranspeaks.com. And now when you go to my webpage, there's a little button that says podcast, and you can listen directly from there. I want to thank Dave England for pointing me in the right direction on that one. And then I've started using AI tools, me and everyone else, like vidyo.ai. And the tools on Riverside, where I'm recording this, have gotten better and better. So I'm starting to use those. It's making the videos easier, faster, and just making things a little bit closer to where I want them to be. So when I sat down to do this, I had no intention of having it be about social media, but I talked so much about it in the introduction that that's what we're going to talk about. As I think about it, makes sense. Social media is a huge communication tool. It's very powerful. There are some upsides and downsides. So let's talk about that a little bit. There are so many out there. I don't really understand most of them, so I'm only going to talk about the few that I do know. But for someone like me who values his privacy, the question is it worth it? Why should I bother? What are the upsides? What are some of the downsides? I break it down into two types, the personal and the business. Starting with the personal, the upsides, I think it's a great way to share messages with people that you care about in a pretty quick way. You don't have to reach out one by one to, wish someone happy holidays. You can send it to everyone who's in your circle all at once. It's a great way to share ideas. If you have a really cool life hack and you think a lot of people could benefit from it, put it on social media. And that way, tons of people will see it and they can maybe benefit from it as well. It's also a great way to reconnect with people from your past. I did not keep in touch with a lot of people from, say, high school. And in the old days, before social media, there was approximately no way I was ever going to find them again. Now, on Facebook, it takes me about 3 minutes to find pretty much anyone that I've ever known if I want to connect with them. So the great thing for personal use is that it's a great way to be connected with people, to share, to learn about what other people are doing, and, as I said, connect with people who you've lost touch with. Some of the downsides, I'll tell you, during the pandemic, I had been using Facebook up until then, and I stopped. The things that I was seeing are people felt like they were bragging a lot. Look at all the exercise I'm doing, or look at how great my vacation is. And it just wasn't making me feel good. The other thing is that a lot of people were using it to preach, especially during political season, which is coming up. No one's ever changed their opinion from a post that they read on social media. So I'm not sure why people feel the need to express their opinion so much, but apparently they do. I find that tedious. And sometimes people just seem to be snarky or mean. It's like they're trolling to find when someone says something they don't agree with and then just attacking it. It's designed to be relatively addictive. They want you going back over and over again, and every time that you get a good message, it gives your brain a little bit of dopamine and encourages you to come back. Many studies show it lowers people's self-esteem. But because it's addictive, sporadically, people can't get away from it. Of course, there are other studies that show that it is good for people and it makes them feel connected as long as they use it well. So that's my take on personal social media. What I use more are business social media. And on the upside, it's a great way to share information where you can actually add value in a pretty easy and quick way. So if I am doing an interview with someone and there are some nuggets of wisdom, then I can make a short video and I can post them wherever I'm going to post them. Maybe put it on LinkedIn. If someone gets value out of that, great. I've just added value. If someone gets value but wants more, then it's an easy way that they're going to be able to find the podcast episode and listen to the whole thing, or they can reach out to me directly and ask me more questions. So it can be a good way to add value while also being a good marketing tool. It also has some downsides, though. It can also be addictive, just like in the personal side. When I post something, every time someone likes my post, I'm thrilled. When I put something out there and it gets crickets, and at the same time I'm seeing just how many likes other people's posts are getting and how professional theirs looks, it kind of feels bad. And I hate to admit that, but it does. Like, I want that kind of reinforcement. The other bad thing is it can potentially be a lot of work, depending on how many places you want to be. I post things on YouTube channel and on Instagram, and then I'll also put stuff up on LinkedIn once or twice a week. And it can be a challenge. The formats that you use for videos are ideally different on the different platforms. And sometimes you can just schedule it, do everything on a Saturday, have it scheduled up for the week. Sometimes you want to do it individually. I'm sure there are more tools out there that I'm not using yet that are going to make it simpler. But even with those tools, it's not nothing. It's a good amount of work. And it's a lot of work when it's tough to be sure what the long-term benefits are. Am I going to actually get a keynote speaking gig from my social media? Is someone going to see me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I want to hire him to train the up-and-coming leaders in my company? It's tough to say. And so if I'm not careful, it can be overwhelming and it can be a little bit of a downer when you don't see instant results. Just like all marketing, it's a long-term approach. that's generally tough to quantify directly. I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Communications, and in the old days, 20 years ago, it took from 3 to 7 marketing impressions before people would actually hear that message. In fact, it's so prevalent, that idea. I went online and I was doing a search on it, and the only thing I entered was marketing, and the first 3 results included marketing rule of 7. So in the old days, it was always 7. And that's what people think. But we are constantly bombarded with messages now everywhere. And so newer studies show that it takes upwards of 20 impressions before a customer will actually notice what they're seeing. When there are so many messages out there, you need to keep going, and it's longer than it used to be. The good news is, back when it was 7 impressions, that got people about 20% of the way through their buying decision process. So after 7 impressions, they might have noticed you. If you seem like a good fit, then they'd reach out. And then the salesperson had to get the person another 80% of the way before making a buying decision. Now, it takes 20 impressions, which is the bad side. But while people are getting up to those 20 impressions, they're also doing research online as they go. So by the time that they actually do reach out to you, studies show that they're about 70% of the way through the buying decision. So it took longer to get them to reach out to you, but once they reach out to you, they're closer. So whether you're using social media for personal use or for business use, it can be a great way to engage a huge number of people, but it should be used deliberately. Know what you're trying to do. Try to add value. Try to send messages that'll help people or make them feel good. And take control of it. Take control of how much you are contributing. Take control of how much you are consuming, and reevaluate it periodically. Does it still work for you? Is it worth it? Maybe a New Year's resolution for you can be to make a decision. Take control of the social media. What things are you going to keep? What things are you going to do away with? So that's my last message for the year 2023. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate you being on this journey with me. I hope you have a fantastic holiday season and start out 2024 with a lot of positive momentum. Thanks for listening to another episode of How to Talk to Weirdos. Hopefully you found it both interesting and useful. If either of those things is true, please share. Do you have a friend or a coworker who could benefit from listening? Maybe a family member you're going to be spending the holidays with? Please send them a link to your favorite episode and see if your conversations don't get just a little bit easier. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much and have a great week.